Welcome to the Junkyard Dawgcast, everybody. Producer Jordan here with the man, Rusty Mansell. Georgia absolutely dominates Michigan in the Orange Bowl, won 34-11. We're going to break that down for you guys. But first, Rusty, Happy New Year. How's it going,
man? I'm coffee, definitely coffee.
Yes.
A lot of water, coffee. So, but definitely glad 2022 is here, and hope it's everybody in the entire world takes 10 steps forward, man, to get back to hopefully living like we did in all the time I've known.
Absolutely. Definitely agree. Well, like we kicked off with, Georgia absolutely dominates Michigan. Final score 34-11. Rusty, we talked about yesterday some key matchups, and I really think that's one of the places I want to start. Let's talk about the play of Salyer, man. Just absolutely neutralizing Aiden Hutchinson. Michigan didn't record a sack.
He had 4 tackles in the first half, and he had 0 in the second.
Yeah.
And listen, I want to be real careful because Hutchinson is a hell of a football player. And that guy, I mean, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. If Falcons get him, I'm going to be excited. But I think going into this game, it was totally – I wouldn't say disrespectful. I just was surprised that Salyer was not getting the kind of mentions because this is a former 5-star recruit. This is a guy I've known for a long time, and I said it in every podcast this week on here. This guy he wasn't going to be he was looking forward to that challenge. You know, he was looking on his Twitter header, you know, he says, I'm trying to buy my mom a house. And he's had that on there for 4 years. And don't think that he didn't walk into that game going, hey, this guy's a number 1 draft pick. I can make a lot of money tonight off this tape. I was standing on the field in the Alamo Bowl, in the Alamo Dome in 2017 when those two went at it in practice one day, and it got heated. Nah, it wasn't like they hated each other and all that kind of stuff. They got after each other in some one-on-one. So they'd had a taste of each other. But I think Jamari, reading those clippings, I know Jamari very well. And I'm telling you, man, that kid is cut different. He came back to Georgia for a reason, for games like this. And I think it was a perfect setup for him. All the headlines were on Michigan's defensive line, and nobody was talking about Salyer or Warren McClendon. And both of those guys, by the way, Ajobu, 0 stats.
Yeah, didn't even record a stat.
He had 0 stats. I mean, he had nothing. So what those 2 tackles did, Darnell Washington also played a big role, John Fitzpatrick. But, you know, what Georgia did to those guys, it was pretty dominating.
Flip over to the defense. Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, Michigan's touted backfield, combined for, just 52 total rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what Georgia did correctly just to absolutely kind of, do that boa constrictor and just kind of squeeze the life out of them.
Well, what the bad news for Michigan was the front 4 of Georgia dominated the Michigan offensive line. So when that happens, not only you're getting penetration and negative plays out of the front 4, it allows Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, and Nakobe Dean to go to work. And they did. And that's the recipe for something that happened last night. But, with the Alabama game, the first time, Georgia was unable to do much at all with their front 4. They were having to bring guys. When you have bring guys, extra guys, it creates opportunities one-on-one. Alabama took advantage of those. Now, Georgia's going to have to regroup, and we'll have plenty of discussion on that. But as far as you talking about last night, when Georgia's front 4, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, who played unbelievable, all those guys, when they were able to control the line of scrimmage, it was a wrap. Because at that point, Michigan had no chance to do anything offensively because they couldn't block those front 4.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Stetson Bennett, one of his better games. I mean, you could argue that's the best game of his career. Throws for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just being able to extend plays with his legs. I mean, there were a couple of first downs I remember he picked up. Had him in 3rd and short, and everybody was covered, and this guy just scrambles and he makes plays.
An example, the 20-yard run. If you go back and watch that 20-yard scramble, Hutchinson beats Justin Schaefer. I mean, he beats him. He has immediate penetration. Well, and I'm going to use it for example. If that's JT Daniels, that's a sack. That's a sack. But with Stetson Bennett, he sees the rush. He takes off to the right. And not only does he escape the pocket, he gets 20 yards. So that's what makes you frustrating as a defensive coordinator. You've done everything right. Your guy beats a block, you get immediate pass rush, and then the quarterback takes off for 20 yards. That is deflating. And as a coordinator, Kirby Smart knows that. Dan Lanning knows that. Defensive guys know that man, that'll suck the life out of you as a team and a player to see something like that happen. But I'm not saying Stetson Bennett's Michael Vick by any means, but he does enough to really cause you issues. I think he's smart when he runs the ball. I thought a lot about him this morning and what he's went through, because I know I know that Stetson Bennett, I believe him when he says he doesn't read social media. Now, the people that do read social media are his family and people that support him, and it's just inevitable. Sure. So he carries that weight for those people, and he carries that weight for his teammates and his coaching staff. I mean, they're publicly saying he's our guy. He knows the perception of what's going on. To go out and have his best game as a Georgia Bulldog, that says a lot about that kid. To deal what he deals with, it also says a lot that this man rocks a flip phone. He stays in his lane, man, and he does what he does, and he's got another shot at Alabama, and he's 0-2 against Alabama. So this is a biggie. But what he's done this year and what he did last night, there should be zero hesitation in a fan base getting behind a player like Stetson Bennett.
Agreed. Well, James Cook, 6 carries, 32 yards, 4 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Rusty, this was a guy I feel like all season, sure, everybody's picking him for player of the game, and he just doesn't show up that game.
Yep.
But man, is there any game that's increased his draft stock more than this one?
Nope. And I think I've said it on here. I've said it several times. He reminds me of the college career of Alvin Kamara. I think James Cook's best playing days are ahead of him. And you see last night, and it's the second time they've done that. They did it against Tennessee when they flexed James Cook, and I think it was Tennessee. When they flexed him out one-on-one with a linebacker, they throw a touchdown pass in the corner. Well, they flexed him again last night, and they got him one-on-one with a linebacker, and Stetson Bennett drops a dime. They did that against Alabama last year in Tuscaloosa, the same thing. So, I said this 2 days ago. I think just because you know what's coming doesn't mean you can stop it. And they knew they had one-on-one with James Cook with that linebacker just because of personnel and how they were able to formation that into that one-on-one matchup. So last night, you think about playing his hometown. I actually flew to Miami to break James Cook's commitment. He wanted to do a commitment video. So I go down and I spent a day and a half with him and kind of, he shared some stuff, about his family and losing a close friend. And he kind of dedicated his little commitment video to that. So I've known James for a long time as well, but I know that it was extra special for him to do it in the city of Miami. And, he's a Georgia Bulldog, and I think his career last night, that game's going to be remembered. Now he's got one more to shine in. We'll see what happens. But when you go back and think of James Cook, you're going to think about the Orange Bowl and what he did to Michigan.
Absolutely. And you were 100% right about the Tennessee game. I remember it.
It was in the red zone. They kind of ISO'd him. It wasn't like last night. The Alabama game last year in Tuscaloosa, they put him out there the same exact thing, and Stetson Bennett hit him again for a long touchdown. So
beat Dylan Moses, right?
Yeah, Alabama knew what was coming, and last night Michigan knew what was coming. But it's athlete on athlete, and you couldn't cover him in space. He beat him off the line of scrimmage. I was watching this morning. He beat him off the line of scrimmage, and he was on top of him within about 11 yards. So it was over at that point. If Stetson Bennett makes the throw, which he did, it was either going to be a touchdown or a huge chunk play.
Absolutely. One more guy I want to hit on, a guy that's obviously been in a situation like this in playoff games before, Darian Kendrick, 5 tackles, tackle for loss, 2 picks. Man, it just seemed like anytime Michigan got something going offensively, somehow he was the guy that completely neutralized the touchdown. Had the pick in the end zone, and then had the pick right before the half. It's almost like he kind of just put the foot on the throat right before the half.
Jordan, what did I say? I believe Friday we did our podcast that I said that rushing the passer makes those DBs a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
So Darian Kendrick knew last night, pretty sure early in that game, that he was going to have 3 seconds to cover a guy or my guy's going to get him. So he was all over glue guy. I mean, he just ball skills. And I think what I'll take away from Darian Kendrick was his interview as MVP of the game last night, defensive MVP. And he said, look, I came to Georgia in June. These guys took me in every single day. And all I'm doing is trying to work, to be a part of this team. And that says a lot. Look, the young man had some issues at Clemson. And sometimes it takes a change of scenery to kind of grow up. And Georgia is very fortunate to get a transfer lockdown corner like Darian Kendrick. And by the way, Jordan, this will be his 3rd national championship game.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So here's a guy that we had in the Army All-American Bowl. We had him at wide receiver, and I spent some time with him. I actually, at an FBU camp a couple years ago, we were all working a camp in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I actually had dinner with Trevor Lawrence and Darian Kendrick, and those two were really tight. And I got to spend a little bit more time with Darian then, just kind of meeting him a little bit more.
Sure.
And by the way, Jamari Salyer and DeAndre Swift, those guys, FBU, great, camp circuit. They brought all those guys in. They're all former alumni. So we went to dinner with them that night, us and about 6 or 7 coaches. So I got to sit around the round table and listen to Andrew Thomas and DeAndre Swift and Trevor Lawrence and Jamari Salyer and Darian Kendrick talk about what's going on in college, which was really cool. But I think what stood out to me was his personality, Darian, and how close he was with Trevor. So, you look at this, what Georgia gets, a very, very experienced football player, and what he did last night, man, 2 picks in the Orange Bowl, big time.
Absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, let's go ahead and hit our player of the game. I'll go first. For me, it was easy. It was Jamari Salyer.
Mm-hmm.
This is a line of scrimmage league, and I think he really proved that last night. I don't think that there's been a game where just a left tackle has impacted that much as far as these like high profile college football playoff games.
Yep.
Just being able to neutralize a guy that finished 3rd in Heisman voting. That's kind of crazy to think. He had some tackles, but
Will Anderson, Georgia's going to face him again.
Yep.
If Will Anderson is not the top defensive player in the country, I don't care who you're a fan of, something's not right. He impacts a game. He has to be double and triple team. Jordan Davis, he's worthy of mention to Kobe Dean. But listen, I don't want to get into who, but the fact that Will Anderson did not get the publicity that some have, to me, I don't understand it.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Rustin, give us your player of the game.
My player of the game, and I'm gonna make 2 comments before I do. Brett Steele here says Pump House has great fried okra. Actually, that's where we had dinner that night in South Carolina, was Pump House. So I don't know if you were there, Brett, but that was a really cool experience to probably have dinner with 7 or 8 NFL first round draft picks. But in Jermaine Burton was a guy. Freddie mentions that here. Jermaine Burton had a touchdown. He probably had a second one had they not had a pass interference. It was not called, by the way, that I thought. But Jermaine Burton, I felt like Michigan's corners, not as athletic as they faced. And I felt like you start taking about speed. Jermaine Burton's got a lot of top end speed. And I felt like Georgia would take a shot. They did take one, almost took a second with him. So we'll see if that momentum carries over. But I love the Jamari Salyer pick. I love the way the tackles played. But at the end of the day, what Stetson Bennett did in adversity and leading his team, no turnovers, 3 touchdowns, seemingly made every good throw. Brock Bowers made a freaking fingertip catch on the first drive. The ball was a little bit overthrown, but my goodness, what a catch. That kid caught on the back of his fingertips. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Running full speed and torque your body. So, but for me, it's Stetson Bennett, Jordan. What he went through this week, what he continues to go through. Now he's got a big game, and this is the one for him. For Kirby Smart and Stetson Bennett, look, they're together. Okay, obviously they've hitched their wagon to each other. This is the game again, Alabama. But these two got to get past that game. But what Stetson Bennett's done this year for Georgia and what he did last night in the Orange Bowl, incredible.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Well, guys, that's all we've got for you today. We'll be back with you next week at some point. We got to work out schedules. Those guys got to get back from Miami.
I will be in Texas. Okay, so I'm gonna pass it off to Jake and Kip. I have text with both of them. If you're a member of Dawgs 247, I believe Georgia has 11 commits, 10 commits, couple targets that are being Texas for the All-American Bowl. So I'll be there on. I'll fly out tomorrow. So Monday we'll have practice reports, ton of content on a huge portion of Georgia's signing class. I gave Kip one the paper, rock, scissors to go to South Beach. Oh, by the way, I'm going to Indianapolis, and I saw the forecast this morning was next Saturday was 20 and 10. So, I'm going to eat.
He made that a little better than you.
Kip made that a little better. So you guys are handling most of it next week. Jordan, we want to try to do. Me and Jake want to try to do a couple from Indy, so we'll try to make it work. Maybe I'll stop by Nashville and steal you, bring you up to the Natty, and we'll put you to work up there. But
I'm ready to go, man.
Again, I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody here, all you guys that are on here. We already see Stet's flip phone. We got a new name here. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year's. And we got a ton of coverage. I talked to Jake this morning, and dude was like a kid on Christmas morning. Hey, we're going to do this. Hey, we're going to do that. I was like, hey, dude, just hold on and get back, and we'll figure it out. So we'll have a ton of coverage, man, and I will be away for a couple of days, but we'll also have a ton of coverage. I'll get back as soon as possible, but Jake and Kip will be all over this with Jordan next week.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Well, for this edition of the Junkyard Dawgcast, I'm producer Jordan. He's Rusty Mansell. We will talk to you guys soon.